Hello and welcome to the May update from Dean Park Station. Quite a lot to be going through this month, so I'll get stuck in about it. Any comments, questions, as always, I look forward to hearing from you. Cheers! First thing you'll notice from the previous update is that I've added a lot of scenic material to this section of the layout. I've worked my way through scatters, coarse turfs, static grasses, fine leaf foliage, clump foliage, and I've sealed it all in place. And I've got a video on how I went through each stage of this on the way shortly, so if you have any questions you might want to refer to that video and I might answer any of your queries. Starting at the far end of the section that I've been working on, I've got a little cameo scene set up here, and I've got a scale model scenery manhole kit, and you've got the three workers. One of them is trying to prise the manhole cover off while the other two stand about and watch. It reminds me a lot of my local authority where you need three men to do a one-man job. The chaps in the full orange get up, they are Scenecraft, Backman Scenecraft, and the chap to the right hand side there with the orange vest on is a P&D Marsh model 00, and they come painted, and you get they call it this track gang kit, and you get four guys who are already painted, so they're quite well detailed actually. Just zoom out a wee bit, you'll see that the undergrowth obviously a bit thicker here, and you've got in the bushes, which is woodland scenics, fine leaf foliage, a bit more sporadic grass in here, and the cable trunking is kind of been overgrown and covered, and there's some purple flowering weeds in there as well. You will also notice in this video that there are nails sticking up out of the baseboard. They will be where the masts go when I'm in the process now of making the masts. I'll kind of go over a wee bit of that in a minute in this video, but they're obviously quite time consuming, so I'm going to be doing that downstairs in the kind of summer months. Sticking with the cameo scene, you'll notice a couple of line side details. I've got to the right hand side, I've got a couple of rotten pallets there, just abandoned. I put them down the baseboard before I add the scenic material in, so I can get the static grass growing over and around them. And at the kind of left hand side of the workers there, you'll see kind of two round shapes. They are coiled wires that are 10 commandments, painted up in aluminium paint and then given heavy kind of rust washes, and they've been plonked on the layout, maybe left over from the overhead wiring being assembled and installed. So just been, and again the grass is starting to grow around them and in the middle of them. So that kind of completes the scene. I don't want to overdo it too much there with the people and the equipment, but these wee touches just tend to individualise the layout. Looking at this scene, at the right hand side I've installed a wire fence. This is to stop the track side workers getting too close to the retaining wall, which obviously has the incline dropping away. You don't want the workers falling over the edge. There are various examples of fences to protect lineside workers. There's also railing options and spear fencing, but I just thought about adding something a bit different. I've got a lot of retaining wall in the layout. I could have increased the height of the retaining wall to have a parapet wall, but I didn't want to do that. As I said, there is a lot of that on the layout already, so I wanted to give a bit of variation. I've got railings elsewhere in the layout, so I thought I'd put a fence in, and it's quite a sturdy kit from Scale Model Scenery, and it gives you around about 1 metre in a kit, and the wire comes with it as well, which feeds through small holes in the posts, and the posts have even got a little fret on them, so you know how far in to put them. Obviously I put them in after I'd added all the Scenic material, so I had to kind of just get the height I wanted, and you know, they follow the contours of the ground, if you like, which is more flexible for working with than say a railing, which would you know, maybe not be as flexible with following the contours. I've completed my relay box section here. It's sitting on a 2mm thick plastic card base. I've sprayed it in weathered concrete from Precision Paints, and then weathered it a little bit with some fine airbrushing with a dark grey, just to kind of feather around the edges and in and around the relay boxes, maybe just to obviously replicate some grime and where people have been standing and walking. I've then used the Wills Kits relay boxes, and they were painted light grey. I'll put the details of what paints I've used in the video. And then I used some Humbrol weathering powders to dull them down a little bit, sealed them with some matte varnish, and I just carefully glued them in place. You'll notice there is a tube clamp style safety railing at the front. Again, this is a Scale Model Scenery kit, and they come in various sections. I've got the pack here, and it's got shorter sections than that. It's got really short individual parts. It's got a slightly longer one, and the very bottom one's the longest. But if you were adding more together, you'd obviously have to take one of the uprights out, so you wouldn't have a double upright, if you like, if you were buttoning them on together. So I decided that I would just use the one section here. Again, I could have used a fence, but I thought a wee bit of variation, I'll use the railings. They've just been painted in grey primer, and then I used I think it was Humbrol 64 light grey through an aerosol, and just glued them in place. You'll notice around the bottom as well, the weeds and that growing, just to hide the joint where the upright meets the ballast and whatnot. And you'll notice there I've left a bit of ballast, which is not as overgrown, because obviously the workers will be standing on that, and there's a kind of a ballast kind of path in the cess there for the workers to approach the relay boxes if they're doing any maintenance. If I zoom out just a little bit, you'll see that the tracks have been left lying as well. I placed them before I put static grass down, and then I static grass round about it with the foliage and the clump foliage and the coarse turfs, and it just gives the impression that they've been overgrown. I mean, the end of this middle one, for example, just disappears under the bushes. And if you look at the back here, the cable trunking has been overgrown as well by some low-lying coarse turf with the purple flowered scatter on it, and there's even a little lid that's come off the top of the cable trunking there, and it's just been left, not been put back. So this in itself is quite a nice little scene. Looking in the opposite direction, around about the relay box area, you'll see the 3 abandoned rusty rails there, and there's also a pile of sleepers that I have placed again before I put any Scenic material down. If I just kind of zoom in on that for a little bit, you'll see again the grass is kind of growing around about them. and it's quite a nice little you know, scene. These are also scale model scenery 3-hole wooden sleepers, and I just painted them in sleeper grime and then took the roof dirt down the middle of them to replicate some, you know, oil spills that obviously have been used, they've been taken off and just piled at the side. You know, it's just at the back of them there, again another purple flowering weed. This area at the left is still to have some clump foliage and fine leaf foliage bushes added along the wall, but until I get the wall capping on, I didn't want to put any bushes in because I want some bushes kind of overgrown the top of the capping. You notice I've got a speed sign there that reads 50 miles an hour. I've got one facing in the opposite direction that I'll show you shortly, but they are just 10 Commandments kits, sprayed and grey primer. You get the signs with them, you carefully cut them out with scissors, go around the edge with a red pen just to take off any, obviously, the white bit that when you've cut it, and I just use a tiny wee bit of spray adhesive and just plonk them on. Drilled a hole in the baseboard, bit of super glue, done. Very effective. So when you get to track level, the detail with the static grass really does come to the fore. You'll notice on the right hand side there's different levels of static grass and different undulations in the actual, you know, ground. There's some barer bits, there's some more heavily overgrown bits, there's some weeds, different textures in there, and obviously I've got a varying degree of colours and lengths of static grass in there, which I do go over in my video. I don't know how I did all this, so refer to that if you need to know any of the static grasses that I used. But the speed sign again, same kit, 10 Commandments, and it's got the 70 on this one, the higher speed curve coming up, and it's got the little arrow pointing to the right, giving the driver the indication that this is the 70 mile an hour line and not this siding, which will fit speed restrictions, you know, on the earlier section of that. The embankment has also been given the Scenic treatment, again a variation of static grasses, clump foliage and Woodland Scenic's fine leaf foliage to give it that varying height and texture and tone. You can see where the grass is deeper at some points and more patchy depending on the slope. For example, down there, just the right hand side of the mast there, earth showing through because it's quite a steep slope, and you know, weeds and grass don't adhere to, you know, sheer faces as well. Coming along towards the wall, which now looks very built into the scene, the end of the retaining wall there, with some more foliage, grasses and weeds, especially just before the wall there if I zoom in. Some really quite wild looking grass with some coarse turf and some earth down the bottom where it's more bare. I'm working my way up the incline. You notice I've used some static grass, more patchy in nature, and some clump foliage. A lot of maybe gravel and ballast and mud showing through there. Zoom into that bit for example, because it's not maybe as heavily in the sun, so there's less undergrowth. And there's a fence there. I've just kind of angled it round the end of the wall, again just to take the workers away from the top of the retaining wall, which at this point is obviously quite steep. The capping for the stones on top of the wall and the ridge stones are in the process of being made just now, so they should be fitted by the time I do the next update, and that will just complete that scene totally, because the retaining wall will be finished. I'll add some more clump foliage on the top to disguise the capping stones, which are obviously exposing the white plastic just now in the MDF, but that will just finish off the scene. And obviously the right hand side done, I'll then do the left hand side scenic material at some point. This little section here just shows you a little bit of detail that you can add in to really enhance the scene. You've got obviously the orange piping there carrying the cables, you've got the trunking there meeting it, and you've got these scale model scenery drains, and again it's the same as the manhole cover, weathered concrete paint, rail match, and then rusting powders for the actual cover. And just in the track there you've got your track sensors for the TWS. I was finding it quite difficult to keep the masts parallel to each other with just the head span wire for the overhead equipment. So what I've come up with is this jig, and it's done in a laser cutter. I designed it myself, and what it is basically two 3.8mm grooves there with an open area here for the wiring. And what I do is I take my masts, slot it in there, put it tight to the bottom, and the same at the other side. And when I'm gluing my cross wires in there, they're held at, you know, the same distance of parallel, so I can get my masts, you know, square. And obviously when I'm finished, just lift it out or lift the jig away and it's done. Another little gizmo that I've come up with using the laser cutter is this fence post jig for use with the scale model scenery wire fencing that I've shown you in the video. At the top there you can see that I've got square notches, and that's for the spacing of the fence posts at 24mm spacing, which I've obviously you know, laser cut out of the plastic as well, so it tells me for 24mm spacing. And down the bottom are round holes. What you do is you can either use the top notches for putting it on the ground and then just drilling, and then you put your fence posts in, or if you want to just drill the holes, you could just use the circular, which are 2.5mm in diameter, so it allows you for the 2mm drill, which is the size required for the scale model scenery's fence posts. So I've got a wee jig there that I can use for straight sections of fencing of, you know, a variety of brands or homemade scratch built fencing. I knocked this up pretty quickly. If you want one of these, get in touch. I mean, the cost of the plastic ball you have to pay for, and obviously the postage. But if you want one of these, just get in touch and we'll sort you out one if you wish. That really is it for this update. I've done a lot of scenic work over the past month, fitting details to the track. This is by far the most enjoyable part. It gives a layout its individuality, and you know, it makes it unique to your layout and nobody else's, and it's the bit I really, you know, enjoy doing. And it's just great to practice your skills on, you know, making the static grass scene look wild, and varying the tones and the materials that you use. It really is. It's great fun. Much more to do, but as the summer draws closer, work up here will start to slow somewhat, because obviously the heat during the day will make it a little less comfortable, and you know, the garden needs done in the summer, so there's less time to spend up the loft. But I'll keep working away. I'll be doing the masts and whatnot downstairs and bringing them up to test fit. And I'll be doing some design work of the school building, which is the right hand side of the shot just now, and I'll be planning out the caravan park. So there were plenty of things going on behind the scenes which might not you know, come to fruition on the layout until the autumn. We'll just see how it goes with time. Thanks for watching. Cheers just now.